Mechanite logs. Today I arrived in a world appearing similar to some others I've been in, including what I like to call the Dungeons and Dragons dimension. Mornite could sense from a machine he'd made with my help that there was plenty of magic in this world, and we quickly came across proof of it. We also noticed how many of the creatures here were not creatures that appeared in multiple dimensions, but creatures that appeared in mine and Mornite's dimensions as extinct creatures, dinosaurs, as we were first attacked in an open, dry savanna plain by a massive, shambling mess of vines, in the shape of the extinct creature the Amargasaurus. It attacked us, assaulting us, shifting its body in ways that shouldn't be possible, even for a plant. The battle was tough, but we eventually took it out, though we will need to investigate this world further. Greetings. As you know, we have recently had a resurgence in more SCPs appearing in the wild. This one we will be talking about today appears like a prehistoric creature, the Triceratops. SCP-D002 is one of the first SCPs we've seen in this spike. We believe they are a descendant of the Triceratops. We found them in an underground frozen tomb, surrounded by the eggs and spawn of an alien species. We do not know how this has warped to the creature, though it has definitely been changed by its time there. As you see, this creature is more monstrous than ever, more flexible and covered in spikes, with DNA that we do not recognise. We hope to uncover more about it in the future. Whilst we have recently talked about the venom symbiotes that crash-landed on Earth in prehistoric times, these symbiotes would also have a turf war with another alien species that crash-landed on Earth, known as the Xenomorphs. While they have a more sciencey name, that is what they're colloquially known as. They crashed down on Earth in a ruined spaceship that had been transformed into a hive, and still, the intergalactic police have no idea what planet this came from. But it didn't really matter, as it caused a turf war. Each group had their leaders. The leaders of the venomized dinosaurs was the Dilophosaurus, but for the Xenomorphs it was a Mosasaur. Even if it was unable to go onto land, it was the largest of them, and it meant that the others in the group could get around quite easily to destroy more dinosaurs and infect them. Hey guys, yeah, this one's gonna be design notes, and I didn't actually know about the Maysozoic before going into this drawing challenge, but I realised that for the last week I would need to find out a few more dinosaurs because I was running a bit low, and that's when I found the Maysozoic. Not only is that just an epic name, but also they're really cool because I think they have like 15 horns or something, and I think that's just sick. The idea of Maysozoic, this exists in the same world of like my wizard dinosaurs and sea monster dinosaurs, and I thought that would be cool, so I gave them like the magic they're strong at, the magic they're weak at learning, and honestly, like them being good against space magic just made sense with the name Maysozoic. Wanted to make them nice and bulky because they were kind of like a Triceratops, big and bulky, but honestly, I think this is one of my favourites, and it definitely inspired how I did some of the ones later in this video. Now, this one's also going to be design notes, and I'll be honest, doing Brachiosaurus for the Ben 10 prompt was something I had planned since like the start of this challenge. I don't know where the idea came from, but as soon as I had it, I knew, yeah, I'm going to do this. And I had a really good idea from this one from the start as well, where we got the actual Brachiosaurus with the watch in the middle, and then we've got all of the different aliens around it. Now, the only thing I feel like lets this drawing down is the Brachiosaurus in the middle. I feel like I should have gone with more regular colours for it, and it just feels a bit low quality. But this is easily moved up to my top 3 drawings. I think my favourite one is probably either the upgrade one, which you'll see later in the speed paint, or it might be my Ripjaws one. And I didn't know where I was going to place them all. I wanted to do them all out in a ring at first, but I realised I wouldn't give them all enough space, so I went with this. And this was really inspired by how I did Fantasy Race. Because that one, I did like frames in it and boxes to separate it a bit more. I really liked how that turned out. That inspires what I do next for turning it into Spider-Man. I do a raptor. And yeah, I really like this. Another of the only complaints I have is quite a few of them don't seem like Brachiosaurus. Like, you can see with Heat Blast and Diamond Head, they look very distinct. But a lot of the others in this, I feel like don't really represent the Brachiosaurus enough. You know, they kind of just look like the regular aliens with longer necks. As I said, I'm really happy with the upgrade one. I think that's got the most dynamic pose. Aside from just the Brachiosaurus in the middle, I think Wildmutt might be my least favourite, because it just looks least like a Brontosaurus, but I still like it. Overall, I'm definitely going to do more like this, and I was almost inspired to actually do an Alien Force one as an extra for this video, but I'm thinking I might do that at some point, just not for this video. Now, this one I was originally going to do lore for, but I realised right before making this video I didn't have any good ideas for it, and I hadn't planned it out, like, basically at all. So, here I am, doing design notes. And this one, yeah, it's good enough, don't feel enough like a Velociraptor to me. When I got the ideas to do the frames, I really liked that, because the one in the middle, it just wasn't really going to be a full drawing, which was a bit disappointing for me. I wanted it to be, but I still really like how this ends up going. I do one of my Venom drawings, which I'm really liking how I'm doing at the moment. I ain't done many in videos, but I'm going to have a big Venom-related video coming up, so keep an eye out for that. I do a close-up of the character's head, which I also think I should do more often. It ends up looking really good. Background's kind of just throwaway, but whilst doing this, I had a bunch of ideas for how I could do, like, really cool prehistoric version of Spider-Man villains. Like, instead of a rhino, you would have, like, the woolly rhino or whatever. And instead of, like, I don't know, who else was I thinking of? Instead of Dr. Octopus, we have, like, a bunch of other things, like some of the massive bugs from prehistoric times, maybe. You work Venom, and then Kraven the Hunter could look really cool with, like, some dinosaur parts to him. Overall, I think this looks really good. I'm not quite that big a fan of how I did the Venom one, but I like how I did the background, make it more yellow. I started doing some more, like, colour-focused backgrounds in the Invincible as Dragons video. My 80 subscribe special, we're actually starting to get pretty close to 100 subscribers, to get subbing. Overall, I really like this, even if it's not that, like, it don't make that much sense. Like, where's he shooting the web to, and why is the spider sense activating? But even without that, I really like this drawing. Now, recently, my allies, Mornite and Mechanite, went to a world, and when they returned, they said that world was full of magic. Now, most worlds are full of magic, some have more magic than others, and Mornite and Mechanite had worked on a device together able to sense magic in a realm they went to. But I went on a different realm. I was busy when they were doing that mission. Me and an ally of mine from Mornite's superhero team, I think they call themselves the Singing Saviours or something, I'm not good with names. Me and one of his allies from that team, Pot Beast, went to a world that ended up being full of dragons. This one was vicious, and we didn't actually end up taking it down, but most of the ones we found in that world were relatively peaceful, so we're gonna look into it further. The superheroes of the world all gain their powers in different ways, but some of them in different parts of the world that are more drawn to elemental energy gain their powers from elementals. You see, dinosaurs were not simply extinct creatures, but they had deeper connections than most of the elements. You see, one of the animals that was most connected was the Beelzebufo, though no one knows why. Dinosaurs were connected with the elements. It said their soul would select what element they wanted to live their life with before they started. But if they went out of their way to use these powers for evil, they would corrupt, and their element would turn to dark, which doesn't do anything to help them, but instead weakens them. You see, whilst most dinosaurs gain these elemental abilities, most of them, if not all, were encouraged to only use these to live natural lives, though they can gift these abilities to people in the modern day. This one, I feel like, ends up being the letdown of this video, which is really disappointing. We had 2 video game-inspired prompts with Mega Evolution, and I think earlier we had Final Boss. Well, even we had 3 with Pokemon and Gigantamax in the first week, but I didn't really do video game-inspired looks for them. And I really wanted to do well, and I was really excited for this one. I think the design ends up coming out really well, but not the actual look of it. I think it's too simple. But the idea, I feel like I executed it relatively well. And the actual look of it, I think, turns out alright. The idea is really good, and I wish I could have done better with the actual idea, because the design I love. But I do think it actually ends up looking relatively good. I remember that Mega Aerodactyl existed halfway through the zone, which was a little bit embarrassing. Nobody knows the brutal villain Spine's true name, though many have theorized about it. But we do know some stuff about his origins. He was raised by his mother, who was a notorious bank robber, assistant to her husband who had been locked up for life, though she had never been arrested. Her husband had come up with a chemical that would change the neurons in one's brain, and before their child was born, in a lab, they changed him so that he would have essentially 2 separate brains, very limited connections between them. Now this led to, as he was growing up, this child would only know to have 178 days of the year, as he was split into essentially 2 children, as every other day he would change personalities and be taught this. His mother was a master manipulator, as she was a retired and failed actor, and she taught the child's one personality to be the most polite and greatest person it could be, as she was also great in philosophy, but the other one to be brutal, and know the best way to get a job done was to get it done, not worrying about who got hurt, which was her personal belief. When he was gifted the strongest abilities in the city by an elemental, his mother permanently switched his brain to the more brutal side, and she made him do her dirty work for her, so that he would take out people in the city. He did this for a long time, eventually doing so to a villain called Saber, who would become his arch rival, along with another hero of the city known as Parasol. He would ruin their lives forever, but they would come to forgive him eventually, as he recovered his mind, but he would still end up locked up, as he had killed far too many people for most to forgive him.